Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon, Procurement Transformation, the Pyramid of Excellence, featuring Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition, Procurement Analytics. My name is Steve Hayden. I'm a partner at MarketSphere, and I'm serving as the host today. MarketSphere is an Oracle Platinum partner and has proven itself as a leader in Oracle solutions across the enterprise performance management and the ERP suite of applications. I'm happy to have John Stillwell and John Leary with me here today. Let me take a minute to introduce our speakers. John Stillwell is a director with MarketSphere and specializes in helping clients transform their supply chain and procurement functions. Throughout his career, John has focused on enterprise spend management, supply chain planning, and most recently, the deployment of business intelligence. John Leary is with Oracle and has experience in both consulting as well as industry roles. He has worked with organizations on the deployment of business intelligence, data warehouse, as well as their interaction with ERP systems. A couple of fine-looking young men. Both Johns have worked with clients across a wide range of industries, so we look forward to hearing from them today. Also, from an introductory standpoint, we did want to share an overview slide on MarketSphere. And with that, we'll now begin the Procurement Transformation presentation, and John Stillwell. John?
Thanks for the introduction, Steve. We'll pause just a second and absorb the MarketSphere overview slide. And thanks again for the introduction, Steve. As Steve mentioned, I'm John Stillwell with MarketSphere, and I'll be leading you through the first portion of our discussion today. As Steve mentioned, we have John Leary from Oracle with us, who will be showing us some of the practical applications of our discussion within the OBI Procurement and Spend Analytics module. So we're lucky to have John with us today. So let's go ahead and get started. Procurement Transformation, the Pyramid of Excellence. Our model at MarketSphere Procurement Transformation is the Pyramid of Excellence. It calls out 10 areas that drive strategic change in the area of procurement. As you can see, these concepts build on each other to increase the total value and speed to implementation of your procurement transformation. You'll notice that we've called out the foundational elements related to tools and technology, people and organization, and processes and policy development. I think you'll also see that as we move up the pyramid, we've called out procurement and sourcing capabilities, sourcing goods and materials for the enterprise, managing the procure-to-pay transactions, and managing ongoing supplier performance and compliance. We've gone further to call out some of the enablers. We've called out two areas not often considered by organizations in their procurement transformation journey. Business intelligence, which we'll be discussing today, and ROI accelerators, the concept of driving savings through cost reduction initiatives that will fuel large-scale strategic improvement initiatives across an enterprise. From there, we look at how to accelerate and optimize your transformation using deployment strategies and change assurance to bring the value of your new procurement capabilities to a broader set of internal customers. Yeah, I think it's also important to note that none of this really is possible without strong executive leadership, including a strategic vision, flexibility in a center-led model, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Please keep an eye out for additional webinars and content from MarketSphere highlighting the other 10 areas. As I said today, we'll be diving deep into business intelligence. A couple of notes about today's topic and presentation. We will be moving through a lot of content quickly today. both John and I are planning on touching on really some of the high points of each concept shown. And then we invite you to download this material for further detailed review if necessary. With that, let's talk a little bit more about procurement transformation in the Pyramid of Excellence. You'll notice that we've highlighted here the business intelligence as an enabler in our 10 areas. After laying the foundations of people, process, and technology, and building sourcing capabilities, we see that many organizations do not go further to realize the benefits of enablers and accelerators like business intelligence. Taking into account all 10 factors in the Pyramid of Excellence, we have found that our clients decrease the time to deployment and realize significant increased benefits in their transformation initiative. You know, from a reporting perspective, I think we often find that our clients are getting the feeling of water everywhere and not a drop to drink when it comes to the information that's housed in their ERP and legacy applications. We'll get more into the detailed definition of business intelligence later, but really at a high level, we're talking about data consolidation and storage, processing and integrating for use in fact-based business decision-making activities. So streamlining business decisions and the overall processes behind them. In general, the use of business intelligence and analytics really can take the guesswork and uncertainty out of many of the business processes you may be struggling with today. And I think this has a very special application in the area of procurement analytics, which really the focus of today's discussion, and we'll be talking about much more further. So. I think it's important to really talk about some of the key challenges, especially related to the area of business intelligence and the procurement area. One of the first and most common challenges in procurement analytics is visibility into historic enterprise spend. I think we all have heard about this, commonly called spend analysis. This is something you may have already be doing right now, but expending a lot of calories to get it done with a short, useful time of the data set that you're actually producing. Possibly the next most common challenge or most talked about is supplier performance. It's the ability to have real-time insight into how a current supplier is complying to existing contract terms, as well as how they're viewed by your internal customers. In addition, we see the ability to detect inefficiencies and having the capability to make the changes necessary to correct them is a top challenge. You know, as well as large amounts of time wasted gathering data and reports for use in standard business processes, as well as the efforts to try to transform the organization. These manual, time-consuming efforts often result in a lack of confidence in the end result. Today we'll be addressing many of these challenges as we discuss procurement analytics. Specifically, I will be diving into understanding the competitive advantage of procurement analytics, where it makes the biggest difference, how to begin to put procurement analytics to work, and then how to sustain a performance management culture in procurement. It's not enough just to get it started. We want sustainable results. Based on what we are facing, how can business intelligence in the form of procurement analytics begin to address some of the challenges that we just talked about? We think the key is using focused, well-deployed steps to consolidate, organize, access, and then analyze and report information vital to the procurement process. It's really important to note the progression of access and reporting to analytics, which we're illustrating here in this maturity curve. It's as the degree of business intelligence increases, your competitive advantage grows, and you begin to evolve into the world of broader analytics. I'd also like to point out on this slide here that the time orientation can shift as you progress up this curve towards optimization. I think traditionally we think about some management reporting, potentially ad hoc reporting. What has happened in the past. As you begin to become more sophisticated with your access and reporting and move into the broader realm of analytics, you're concentrating more on what is happening right now. And then on up the curve into the analytics spectrum, what can we predict will happen? And oh, by the way, what can we do about it? I think evolving in this way is the key to driving value and using procurement analytics as a competitive advantage. I think another key element that can be a differentiator in using procurement analytics is the linking of metrics and reporting to the organization's strategic approach. I think this is often overlooked as the rise of strategic planning and different models that are used by many organizations. And this speaks to a broader performance management philosophy, not just the procurement department, but the organization as a whole. Key measures in procurement analytics identified as strategic imperatives can actually transform the objectives, goals, and strategies shown here into actionable and accountable items that teams and individuals can grab onto. We have found that enabling a few key measures and analytical capabilities and then linking back to the identified departmental and enterprise objectives, goals, and strategies really creates the engine that drives the ongoing performance management process. In other words, it's the measures that make the strategy real for the department, the team, and the individual. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. Now that we've talked about some of the competitive advantages of procurement analytics, let's talk about some of the common application points of procurement analytics to develop a context of how to select and use the right analytics. You'll see here it's a simple procurement-centric diagram illustrating the enterprise in relation to both the supply base there on the left and the customer market there on the right. We put kind of purchasing highlighted because it's the important part of today's discussion. We really see 9 common application points in the procurement analytics context. And as we step through these, I'd like to keep in mind that maturity curve because we're going in order here of some of the most typical to some of the most advanced. Number 1, spend analytics by supplier or category over a given period of time, or an application point. The second application point, purchase pricing analytics, focusing on costs of individual goods or services. Third application point, supplier performance metrics. We talked a little bit about that already, both qualitative and quantitative in nature. 4, buyer performance metrics, measuring the individuals within the purchasing organization. 5, purchasing department metrics, measuring the performance and costs of the purchasing department as a whole. Yeah, I think it's important to call out here that we see kind of a quantum leap here in the first 5 versus the last 4. This is typically where most organizations stop on some of their traditional reporting measures. So moving on to some of the more advanced, number 6, the purchasing function metrics are really measuring the purchasing impact and value add to other business functions in the value chain. Not always an easy thing to do without some strong procurement analytic tools. Number 7, enterprise, measuring the purchasing function in relation to the company as a whole. Number 8, product. Procurement's value here as a ratio to specific products sold to customers. So what impact does purchasing have on the success of each specific end product or service for your organization? Again, not an easy one to just go out and calculate without accessibility to the right information. And finally, the customer. Procurement as a part of what does it cost to handle a specific customer? The ability of procurement to aid and affect the end customer service experience. So that's what we see as the 9 application points of procurement business intelligence. Now that we've seen some of the key application points of procurement analytics, let's talk about 4 key areas that maximize the value add and actually putting procurement analytics to work. So we'll be diving into each of these 4 areas a little bit further here in the next 4 slides, but these are really the 4 concepts that we see as critical to implementing procurement analytics as well as the value add results that you should expect. So first off, where the arrow is right there, selecting the right metrics and reports for your organization. This, having the right information, the right time to be able to make the right decision. At the top there, using purchasing analytics to streamline business processes and decisions. In the middle, using purchasing analytics to drive both internal and external compliance efforts. And down there at the bottom, using analytics as a foundation for enterprise transformational activities, kind of developing that continuous improvement muscle. And I think this is a special one too. It can be in other areas of analytics as well, but procurement analytics is unique in that the transformational capabilities are so apparent. Diving into a little deeper into selecting the right metrics and reports. We really believe that you must have a structured methodology for identifying and establishing the right metrics and the right reports for your end user groups. There are three really key areas to what we call our analytical assessment approach, or A3 methodology. The first is developing a measurement strategy. From there, understanding and developing an overall reporting strategy, and then really tying that together with an overall data strategy, so how it will be accomplished with the information at hand. Really these 3 elements combine to create your business intelligence roadmap or deployment strategy to your organizations. This A3 methodology accounts for measurement and reporting requirements, both what you have now and what you may want to have in the future. And I think the business intelligence roadmap explains how measures and analytics will be delivered based on your selected tools and technology that's being implemented. Perhaps the most common sought-after result of implementing reporting and analytics is to have the right information to really make the rapid, fact-based decisions, and then thus streamlining the overall business process. It's probably one of the most common sought-after areas. A wide variety of processes can really be affected within procurement by having the right information at your fingertips. You know, this is ranging from your most simple decisions where you just need to have more consistency to some more of the complex with many variables and steps dealing with strategic supplier relationships. Some expectations from using analytics can be having confidence in a single source of the truth, as well as integrating those analytics into your procurement business processes. This including the automated routing of tasks based on some predetermined outcomes, as an example. Some priority analytics in this area include knowing your total supplier category spend at any given time, managing purchase item pricing, linking to inventory status and reduction, and even then at the higher, more strategic level, if you think about the maturity curve again, ABC measures and total supply chain costs all are apparent. I think procurement analytics are taking effect on streamlining processes. When you've eliminated some redundant approvals, you have confidence in both the business process and the data created by that process, and you begin to see noticeable service level increases to your internal customers. Yeah, and let's move on. While it's not the most glamorous of activities, I think driving compliance to existing terms and policies is a very important process to any enterprise. And procurement analytics can provide a wide variety of tools to support that effort. Again, a wide variety of processes can be affected by having the right information for driving compliance at your fingertips, most notably driving pricing and delivery compliance to existing terms, but also, again, sophisticated supplier performance management tools focusing on, building those lasting strategic supplier relationships. Some expectations from using analytics can be having the tools to build a comprehensive supplier performance program, facilitate continuous improvement initiatives through the supply chain. Additionally, regulatory reporting and compliance can be standardized and automated. Again, highlight some priority analytics in this area. Delivering quality performance, overall supplier performance, qualitative from the perspective of the business on some supplier performance aspects, the ability to identify the amount of electronic transaction use, whether target costing metrics have been achieved. And I think in this area, you really know when procurement analytics are taking effect, when you can effectively segment your supply base, strategically, and apply differentiated supplier performance management strategies, as well as having the information available to lead new efforts around supplier diversity, and even going as far as sustainability and green initiatives with the right data. Okay, on to transforming an enterprise, possibly my favorite area. This is perhaps one of the most impactful areas of procurement analytics is its ability to transform the enterprise by providing the means to accomplish continuous improvement and strategic cost reduction. Business intelligence can provide your organization with the data and analysis to make the lean process improvements, conduct that spend and opportunity analysis, develop strategic cost reduction initiatives, and of course, drive savings to the bottom line, really show the results to the rest of the organization. Some of the expected outcomes are the ability to identify and prioritize the executive improvement opportunities more rapidly, as well as provide a means to track the benefits of these improvements to any area of the enterprise. I think that's a common unknown or untrusted metric in most organizations. Back to that level of confidence in the data or analytics being provided. Some priority analytics in this area include return on investment, total cost reduction potential from a qualitative nature, the ease of change by category and level of implementation effort for strategic initiatives, as well as the overall priority of implementing change to a given spend category. I think the keys to success in using procurement analytics to transform your enterprise are to really implement the periodic enterprise-wide assessments, begin looking to the future to forecast demand and provide information to the business to be able to calculate procurement-related benefits back to the P&L. And we've really seen that the rest of the organization begins to look to procurement for really as a center of excellence for information and analytics and even in the budgeting process. Now that we've discussed how to put procurement analytics to work, let's just talk briefly about how to sustain those benefits overall in a performance management culture. I think we have 8 factors here where procurement analytics must be. It's kind of our checklist. I think number 1, really procurement analytics must be aligned to both corporate and procurement strategies and goals. We talked a little bit about that already. Specifically, procurement's objectives linked with both finance and the broader supply chain. I think second, comprehensive reflecting, procurement analytics must be comprehensive, reflecting both quantitative and qualitative measures. This is especially important in your ability to serve your internal customers, business units. Procurement analytics must be dynamic with stretch goals specific to a given category or area, and again, it could focus on continuous improvement, the periodic assessments and transformational activities that are unique to procurement. Procurement analytics must be transparent and clearly communicated with the objectives and mandate. Everyone that can possibly impact or be a part of a metric should be able to understand it and understand its importance. I think procurement analytics must be tied to performance-based compensation. This is linked down to the individual performance plans, and not every individual needs to be tied to every metric, but this again builds on the transparency concept. I think procurement analytics must also be supported by the right resources. More and more companies are now devoting in groups and teams, within the procurement department, to the sole purposes of analytics and reporting, beyond just some of the traditional areas or linkages you may think of that may be to the finance organization or other areas. I think procurement analytics must also be supported by systems and data, which we're going to quickly get to here. But be able to see a great example of this today in our demonstration coming up of how systems and data can enable this overall process and be the muscle behind all of the brains of the analytics. So I think procurement analysts must also be championed by strong leadership. Just as we talked about, just as individuals are living the metrics on a daily basis, and hopefully it's linked to their performance goals, leadership must have the same approach and be linked in similar ways as they're thinking about it. So probably the best way to make the benefits of procurement analytics truly sustainable is to embed them really in our daily lives with the ability to answer some of the key questions that make any of our jobs difficult or uncertain. Here we see some examples by each major role in the procurement organization and the objectives by each role. Again, back to the executive leadership concept that we just touched on. Procurement executives, meet operational objectives at minimum cost for the broader enterprise. What are the overall trends? How are we handling our strategic suppliers? Are we identifying and exploiting savings opportunities based on economic conditions and marketplaces? And overall, is our procurement organization within the supply chain, is it efficient? I think at the category manager level or commodity manager level, wanting to ensure timely delivery of quality goods at a lower cost. A little bit more tactical, which thinking about suppliers and some compliance efforts and contracted prices. The procure to pay transaction process, managing that effectively. Are the discounts and terms that we have in place, are they being realized to the utmost? And then what are some of the trends in terms of pricing and what reactively could be done to manage that? I think also at the buyer level, tactically ensuring orders are placed with the most reliable supplier. Is that requisition process being handled, and are we actually using the strategic contracts that are in place to utilize the greatest value for the organization? Again, back to the procure-to-pay process and the processes of requisitions and managing that queue. All very important areas. So by making the business intelligence and procurement analytics tools and capabilities relevant to the end user, not just a long list of reports to untangle or search for, we believe that true sustained benefits can be realized by your organization. Overall, I think the best way to make our own understanding of procurement analytics more sustainable is really to see it in action. So with that, I will transition over to John Leary to provide our OBI Procurement Analytics demonstration.
All right. Thanks, John. Let me make sure here that I got the mic. Looks like I do, so I appreciate everybody signing in today, and I think that this is kind of ringing true. I've been to a lot of customers over the past year or so that have been taking a look into procurement and spend analytics, particularly because there is a lot of value in there, and they're having will oftentimes have a hard time, once they identify the savings, communicating that back, tracking the savings as far as what they've identified of how it's implemented into the process and communicating back that value that's realized. So a lot of this process is really important, and it's really, part and parcel with the product itself. So a quick overview here. I'm going to jump into the demo as fast as possible, but I want to make sure I set a little bit of groundwork around what Oracle's procurement and spend analytics are and how they fit into our overall solution and why we think they're a valuable part of our ERP and business intelligence solution family. So we've developed called BI applications, and what they are, you'll see on the diagram here, specifically related to procurement and spend analytics, are categories of analysis capabilities that are integrated into a larger set, and they integrate with your back-end ERP systems as well as provide best practice dashboards, reports, KPIs in a role-based fashion, so that you could quickly deploy these things and provide analytic capabilities in these areas based on really what we see as pretty commonly required reports. Additionally, they're easily extensible. A lot of customers extend these, and add additional calculations or metrics, unique to their process, similar to what you would identify based on what John was going through earlier. So, within Procurement Spend Analytics, we have 4 core components. Spend Analyzer, which is really just providing you a view of what's going on in your total spend in your organization. Procurement Performance, which is just the effectiveness of your purchasing organization. What are my receipts today? What are my outlying receipts? How fast am I processing, purchase orders from requisitions, those types of things. Get into supplier performance, so scorecarding, associating not just suppliers and how they do, but also, products to suppliers, and gives you a way to really, start, if you go into the sourcing activity, gives you a way to really start tracking which suppliers to go after and drive more of a better sourcing contract with. And as well as employee expenses. Just being able to see this sometimes is a big value to organizations. I know in Oracle we submit a lot of expenses, and we use this internally as well, but it does give a good glimpse of what the typical spend is in the organization from an employee perspective. So, why do we think that these BI applications are of value? And really, we built these around three key components there. Insight. The goal is to provide insight to an organization in more of a rapid format and easy format, so that you can understand what's going on, from an historical perspective, based on those, as well as a current, up-to-date perspective, so you can see and take action and respond and drive your organization to start achieving some of the value that you're trying to get out of the processes that you've aligned, and improve ROI and align to strategic initiatives, which kind of steps into alignment. But really, alignment is about, and the way we built these is to say, it's not just procurement spend analytics that we can provide a view across. It goes into finance or supply chain. So really aligning these across the enterprise and breaking down those traditional walls, you could call them, that have impeded analysis capabilities. And specifically in procurement, it could be the impact of a contract on a bill of material, contracted items on a bill of material, and what the impact does that really have on product margins. So that type of alignment is really key in building these out, as well as leverage. And the idea here is that get you guys up and running with these types of capabilities as fast as possible, so that you can achieve that incremental value, so you can start driving organizational improvement, continuous improvement initiatives, and not have to be data movers, professional data movers, and SQL writers. So that's really the key benefits and the underlying principles behind the BI applications and why we wrote them. So this time I am going to hop over to the demo and show a couple things. All right, so just from a housekeeping perspective, I like to always start off and explain what people are looking at here before I start clicking around on these dashboards. What you're seeing is exactly what we would deploy. I call it out of the box, meaning just if you installed it, didn't change anything. This is what our BI applications look like. And across the top where it says My Dashboard, Automotive, these are just different areas of analytics capabilities that we provide. You know, the one in bold, procurement spend, is the one that we're looking at right now. And within there, as you noticed earlier when I click on this here, are those other areas that we spoke about as far as what we provide from a dashboard perspective. All of our dashboards are organized in a summary to detail level, which is really important when you're doing this type of analysis, because it's not enough just to have the gauge and dials that you're looking at here, total spend, total payables leakage rates. What's really important as well is to be able to isolate what transactions or group of transactions might be impacting this metric so that you can take action on it. And so all of these are organized, kind of from left to right in a summary to detail fashion, which is pretty important to understand. It gives you a way to really quickly isolate and identify issues without having to run through massive sets of reports. Additionally, we've got prompts that control the whole dashboard and interaction. So in this case, I've got my year to 2009. So I could add another year there. It took a lot of time to go through this in great detail, but the key is that these are interactive, and these reports can be everything on this dashboard can be reflected by these parameters at the top. So in this scenario, talking about today is how can I actually leverage this? We're looking at Spend Analyzer, getting a glimpse here of some of the metrics that are available to you on this dashboard. But, I can see spend by top categories. I can see spend by top suppliers. Maybe these categories, in this case, I just have one showing up just for simplicity's sake. But, I might have multiple here, and I can see which ones are driving or impacting my total spend from an organization, very quickly. Got ways to actually start drilling into these down here, and we're going to hop there in a second, but I can actually go to more detailed reports behind them. Other things I think that are in here that are useful is the savings potential by top 10 items. Just to give you an idea, once you have all this information, stored the way we do, there's a lot of things you can do with it very easily. That's always presents challenges to purchasing organizations that I've seen at least. So really quickly, I can just say, hey, I typically spend, for this particular product, I typically spend this price, and the least I've spent this year is this price. So maybe, I could take that as an action item, and that might be an opportunity for me to go back and renegotiate a contract or identify what supplier I'm using that provides that minimum invoice price and make that my standard. So those are the high level of capabilities of the product. So in this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at the spend by category and just show you how it flows and breaks out in a little more detail here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in top 10. So I could actually just pull all my category spend. I could just skip this prompt. I could put in others. I could add values. So I'm just going to go ahead and just look at my top 10, my spend for my top 10 categories. Like I said, I only got one, just to make this a little bit easier on the real estate. But I can drill into these categories. So I can start saying, hey, within this hierarchy or this taxonomy, this is how I've broken it out. And now I've got badge or miscellaneous segment. You'll notice over here I've got number of suppliers, so I'm integrating the supplier information along with this spend, so I can really easily, with these three suppliers, start understanding, hey, who am I buying these badges from? Here I've got Dell, I've got, spend is 60%. Well, maybe I want to understand for Dell, what items are making up that spend, right? So I can drill further, and as I'm going through, I'm just going to more and more detail. I'm kind of pivoting across categories into more views of where I actually spend data. And what I'm seeing here is the majority of my spend for Dell is with this particular laptop. So that's just to give you a quick flavor of, I went from a summary view down to within a category and investigated where I'm spending the most with what supplier, and even within the supplier, who am I spending the most with. Other things that I can show you here pretty quickly are procurement performance, for instance, is, the idea of how well my procurement is doing. This is pretty basic type stuff that's pretty important, but, what is my PO trend rate? This is where a lot of people start implementing the procurement spend analytics is one of the first things they deploy because it helps them establish the baseline for the spend analysis and spend classification capabilities of our product. Also starts giving them an idea of where they're trending on what they're leveraging from a contract perspective. So I can even go to a detail here on the PO pricing contract tab and see a little deeper view of how I'm performing related to my contracts. And this is a good bit of data here, so you're seeing some variance, which is what I wanted to show you, but give you an idea here of what's in the analytic applications. So love to show you more. If you guys are interested, definitely can get online. We can do a webinar with you guys as well and show you much more detail. There's a lot of neat stuff in here. We just really threw a stone across the surface today. So when I said throwing a stone across the surface, this is really a sample of the metrics that are available out of the box. When I say out of the box, what we would provide if you just did an install of our procurement spend analytics application, and pretty robust set of metrics. Very common things that a lot of times are difficult to assess and collect across an organization. So very extensive, a lot of flexibility, and a lot of ways to start realizing value. What's the point of this, and why do we develop these BI applications? In addition to the underlying premise, the real key value I think to organizations is the fact that instead of going and building all this stuff out from scratch, to get to the level of robustness that we have would take years. I've done a lot of TCO analysis on that, and it's pretty extensive. It's not an easy task. So what we're able to do is because we have them built out like this, is get that baseline stood up. There's not a lot of value in organizations, doing a data model, for instance, to stand up this type of analytic capability around purchase orders. It's just pretty generic type stuff when you get down to that level, but be able to maintain that and extend it and integrate it across an organization provides a tremendous amount of value, and that's what we've put together so that organizations can roll these out, for instance, and get up and running, against an EBS or a PeopleSoft environment in a matter of weeks. We've seen that happen a number of times with customers. So it really helps accelerate the transformation process that John was talking about earlier. It gives you that foundation. So, as I mentioned earlier, we focus just on procurement and spend there on the right. In the middle, these are all integrated across these different silos. So, for instance, if I was running a marketing campaign and I was looking at sales pipeline, I could actually relate that back in a single report to what my procurement would be and where my current inventory balance is and who I need to purchase from to be able to make sure that I can fulfill that pipeline based on that marketing campaign. And it's all integrated, so one report could provide all that information. That's really, at the end of the day, is where this starts coming to life and being actionable for our customers. So with that, I think we can open it up for questions.
Thanks, John. To ask a question, please open your chat window within WebEx. Then you send the message to all panelists. So again, if you've got any questions, please feel free to send those now. Okay. Looks like the first question looks like for both Johns, what has been the biggest challenge in implementing procurement and spend analytics?
I can go ahead and go first. This is John Stillwell. I think the common comment or idea around the biggest obstacle is really data quality within a existing ERP or legacy application. I think there's the benefit within Procurement Analytics to really get past some of that with some of the unique tools with Spend Analyzer and things like that. So that can be common for other areas, but something that can be worked around. I think, and also there's kind of the misconception out there that I got to get ERP in place before I can even start thinking about my business intelligence strategies and reporting strategies. And we're not really seeing that to be the case. We're several projects right now where I'm helping clients, and they're implementing ERP in parallel with BI packages, including procurement and spend analytics. So, that's not as a common obstacle as what you would think. But I would call out just not having the consistency around some of the business processes in place that would then generate the transactional or ERP related data that would then be needed for so just the lack of data to be able to use analytics packages or intelligence, and that really drives back to, like I said before, just the overall business process. And so I'll let John add his thoughts to that.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's really kind of the common themes we see as well. One hurdle that we hear a lot is, hey, my product's master's not right, or my customer master's not right. And I think what I've seen in the number of customers I have that have gone ahead and implemented have just understood the fact that, you know what, we're going to have data issues, and it doesn't mean that we can't realize the value of an analytic application, an analytic solution or organization, because getting 100% accurate data is a nirvana to a certain extent. So I think the value I see here, and why I was excited that Market Sphere put this together and invited us to participate, is that it's really about aligning that process with the technology and getting this technology solution embedded in the process to help get that value stood up, even when you've got hurdles like data quality or multiple ERP systems, things like that.
This may be a little bit of a follow-on. A question came in about is data standardization and a cleanup mandatory first step before implementing analytics? Maybe you can speak to that, John, as well.
Yeah, I say no, and obviously I'm coming from Oracle, right? And in full disclosure, I do my job as a solutions architect is around this product. But I also have a background in industry as well as risk management consulting and ERP implementation. I think the challenge a lot of times that we see is data standardization and cleanup is, while important, it can be facilitated with an analytic solution. And I'll caveat that in this manner. To be successful in an analytic solution is exactly what Marcus Sphere and John here has outlined today, is being very strategic and specific on what you're going to deliver and deploy. I showed you just a handful of screens, and I think we don't recommend, and it's not because you can't do it. Over time, definitely people do this, but you don't want to stand up everything day one. You want to be focused on what you stand up so that the users can absorb it and can start leveraging it and making it part of their business process. And having that plan is a way to achieve that, and that doesn't require data standardization and cleanup. And it definitely helps to have it there. And a lot of times I see analytics being a precursor for that, because it's going to point out really where the time and energy should be spent on data standardization and cleanup. So I had a little long-winded answer, but
that's good. Thank you, John. Another question, and maybe you touched on it a little bit, but maybe just clarify, just to ensure that the group understands. I don't have Oracle ERP or the Oracle database. Can I still use the Oracle BI products that you began to show us?
Yes. Yeah. Good question. You do not need Oracle ERP or PeopleSoft or JD Edwards. Part of our goal in this was to make it an open solution. So we have something called a universal adapter that will access data from a pick system, for instance. Take your pick custom solution, and once you map that data into what we call a staging table, it'll pull it in and conform it to the same structure as this data coming out of PeopleSoft or JD Edwards. So you have customers that might be pulling in data from 5 different source systems, for instance, and that are not all the same, or maybe even on different versions. And that's really important, I think, because I don't think a lot of organizations just have one platform. So that was really important to make sure that that was open. I also see this advanced supply chain planning question, and that's not necessary to be in place first. That definitely is a component of sophistication in your procurement process, but from an analytics perspective, related to our procurement solution, it's not necessary.
Another question really goes around, when do you typically implement the procurement analytics on an implementation deployment strategy or schedule?
I can go ahead and chime in on that, and John, feel free to add your thoughts. Back again to that A3 methodology and how we step through and talk about all of the requirements of the organization, and then how do you deploy business intelligence modules and analytics out to the organization, presumably not just turning on every suite of application all at once. And I think from the standpoint of procurement analytics, it's kind of unique because where a lot of the information and analytics generated from what you have in the procurement area can be used for strategic cost reduction initiatives, can be used for immediate improvement initiatives. And so this goes right back to one of our other areas in the pyramid of excellence, which is the ROI accelerator. So we often see that along with some of the typical first ones to implement, such as financial analytics or some that you would think of the more common, procurement can be upfront and be one of the first to be in place because of its general bang for the buck. Get it up early and start saving and generating savings to the bottom line, and then the rest of your implementations you can help pay for them with putting procurement analytics up front. So that's a common sentiment in the overall deployment schedule and where procurement analytics finds itself. John, do you have anything to add there?
I think you hit the nail on the head. So
we have a number of other questions, but are really cognizant of the clock, and we're going to meet the schedule and the deadline which we shared with everybody. So it's almost 1 o'clock. If you have additional questions, please feel free to contact us directly. Our email addresses are listed there on the slide. Also, for those of you who do have questions in the queue, I believe we have your contact information and may reach out to you directly with an email response or a call. So with that, we would like to conclude the session today and thank everyone for their time and participation. And to John and John, thank you guys very much. Everybody have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you very much.